Hi, my name is Marlys Arnold, and I teach trade show exhibitors how to go beyond basic logistics with a creative strategy to make their exhibit more of a three-dimensional marketing tool that defines and enhances their unique brand. So tell me, have you ever spent lots of money on a show only to be disappointed with your results? Have you walked away from a show with a lot of names but few actual sales leads? Have you ever felt like your booth was nearly invisible on the trade show floor? Or even been unsure whether a particular show was even worthwhile? Well, I know how you feel. When I started exhibiting, I had no idea what I was doing. So I learned by experimenting and observing other exhibitors. I made lots of mistakes in the beginning. I collected names versus leads. I made behavior mistakes, and I lacked attention-grabbing elements in my booth. But it was also apparent that I was doing something right because I was seeing more success than the neighboring booths. I remember at one show in particular, traffic was horrible, yet I walked away with great leads while all the exhibitors around me were complaining. So I began to analyze what worked and what didn't, walking shows across the country and studying great exhibit techniques. Now, more than a decade later, I teach exhibitors of all sizes and types how to get buzz before the show opens, generate traffic, even with direct competitors right down the aisle, and also educate their staff to become lead-generating magnets. You see, the old field of dreams mentality where people simply build a booth and attendees magically show up doesn't work anymore. We live in an interactive, multi-sensory world, and attendees must be engaged. It's also a myth that you have to have a gigantic booth near the front entrance, or that you have to spend a ton of money in order to be effective. Some of my most successful clients have done it in a 10 by 10 or 10 by 20 space. In my book, Build a Better Trade Show Image, I use the analogy of building a house. First, create a blueprint. Next, begin building on a good foundation. Then, generate energy. Next, create curb appeal. And finally, don't neglect to put the roof on. So let's take a closer look at each of these. Step 1. Break ground before you begin to build. You wouldn't start building a house before you surveyed the land and drew up blueprints, would you? So why then do so many trade show exhibitors skip this important step when they decide to exhibit at a show? In fact, how many exhibitors fully research the show before they even sign the contract? When you start a major project, it's always better if you put some thought into it before jumping in. Remember the old carpenter's adage, measure twice, cut once. While you may be tempted to skip straight to booth design or promotions, resist that temptation. You'll be much wiser making those kinds of decisions if you've started at the beginning, which means first you must survey the land and draw up a blueprint. Or in other words, set goals, create a plan, and a budget. Step 2, start to build. When you build a house, you wouldn't start by simply stacking up bricks on the ground to form the walls, would you? Of course not. Neither should you start your exhibit plan by just throwing objects together and creating a display. You must first determine how all the elements of your exhibiting plan will tie together in order to make one unified marketing message. The booth display, promotions, in-booth attractions, and even post-show follow-up should all stem from that one comprehensive, thought-provoking blueprint, which brings us to the importance of a good foundation, or creating a well-defined message and theme before designing your booth. Step 3, finish the interior. Just like in the construction of a house, there's more to exhibiting than designing the exterior. Interior design, or content, is where the heart of the project comes together. It should flow well with the exterior or booth design in order to avoid conflicting messages and to reinforce your theme. Another vital yet seemingly invisible part of any building project is the wiring. If a house isn't wired properly, it really doesn't matter how beautiful it is on the outside because it won't be functional. In a trade show booth, the real power source comes from the people you choose to staff your booth. They're the ones meeting and greeting the attendees. A poorly trained or unprepared booth staff can spoil an otherwise successful exhibit marketing plan. In order to get the power that you need, you have to generate energy with people. Teach your staff how to engage, qualify, and disengage attendees so that they get quality leads. Step 4, landscaping. How many times have you noticed a beautiful house hiding behind atrocious landscaping, or maybe even no landscaping at all? There's not much inviting lookers to come inside when there's nothing to make that house stand out from a dozen other houses on the block. And in the same way, just because you've built a great booth doesn't mean crowds will automatically come. Why? Because your booth is one of dozens or maybe even hundreds on the show floor, competing for their attention. Often the biggest mistake exhibitors make is assuming it's the show organizer's job to bring in the traffic. That's only partially correct. While show management should be promoting to bring people to the show, and by the way, if they're not, just don't exhibit there. But it's your job to bring attendees into your booth. Now this promotion takes 3 parts. You've got to personally invite the attendees, you've got to draw them to your booth, and then gain media exposure either before or at the show. You have to work at creating curb appeal and becoming the talk of the show. Step 5, put the roof on. Once you've built your house and designed a fantastic interior, would you skip putting on the roof? No way! Besides being irresponsible, you'd be letting all your hard work and planning just go to waste. It's the same way with trade show leads. If you don't have a system in place to manage them, follow up, and measure your results, you might as well skip the exhibiting experience altogether. You're not finished with your exhibit until you've done some weatherproofing with lead management and follow-up. Only then will you begin to see a return on your investment. So what are some of the most common mistakes that exhibitors make? Well, setting unrealistic goals, or none at all. Assuming people just magically are attracted to their booth. They also often send a booth staff that hasn't been properly trained. Or worst of all, failing to follow up after the show. I want to help you move beyond these challenges. So I created a series of free videos that explain 7 common mistakes that exhibitors make and how to avoid them. All you need to do is click the link below to sign up and receive announcements of these videos in your email, along with a monthly Trade Show Tips Online e-zine. So just imagine how great you'll feel when you set realistic goals for your exhibit and achieve them. Your pre-show marketing draws eager people into your booth. Your staff knows exactly how to behave and, better yet, properly engage the attendees. And your exhibit stands out and creates a buzz on the show floor. It doesn't have to be a dream. You can learn the secrets that smart exhibitors know. Remember, be sure to visit the link below to request these videos and be on your way to exhibiting success.